Let's talk about the investment opportunity set and do a little bit of math here and do some plotting and Excel work. So we know our risk-free rate is 7% that has no volatility. We know that our expected return is 15% and that has volatility of 22%. But this is just a chart in a book. Let's go to an Excel spreadsheet and start messing with this and create our own little model going on. And so I've created this quick model here. Not very fancy, but it'll do do for our purposes here. Our return is 15%, standard deviation is 22%, return is 7%, standard deviation is 0. The easy way to do this, of course, is this is the rise. It goes from 7 to 15 on the y-axis, which is 8%, and this is the run. It goes from 0 to 22% on the x-axis or across. And so 8 divided by 22 is 36. And if I just pull this down, you can see the formula. And so we've got 36 there, which is B33 divided by C33. 8 divided by 22, and I hit escape to see it, is 36%. In addition to that, I've also created this little slope formula here. This is another way to look at it. The slope formula equals slope, and then parentheses, known y's and known x's. These columns could be quite long, as a matter of fact, to find the slope. We'll get more into that with regard to beta. We have the known y's. This is the vertical axis. The known x's, where this is the horizontal axis. So we have known y's, known x's, and that can create the slope as well. So it's pretty straightforward on how to do that. Slope formula, or just do it yourself. It's not that hard in this particular case. But try to do the slope formula in the homework because you're going to be using it as beta next week anyway, so you might as well get used to slope. The second thing is we want to plot it. Now, plotting it takes a little bit of manipulation of the data to make sure the plot comes out right. We know we want the plot to be 0 and 7 and 20, 15 and 22. So I'm just going to double click on this so you can see that these are the numbers I used. And so you've got 0 at 22, that is the horizontal axis, and then 7 at 15 is the vertical axis. And so we have our plot here of the capital market line, 7% at 0, and then at 22%, we're at 15%. So we've plotted the capital market line. How you do this, and of course, if you've not been familiar with spreadsheets, is you go back up here to chart design, format design, etc. You can go to insert, and then you go over here to the scatter with straight line markers, and that will get you this graph once you highlight this in. But you have to remember that you might have to play with it. Don't suggest you're going to do this easily the first time. To play with it to make sure your data looks right. You know, one of the things that's really easy to do is to switch these around. And if I put 7 here, let's just put in 0.07 here and put 0 in here. And now what do we have? Well, we have a completely different graph, right? So if you see something like this and it's a little bit off, it's because your numbers in the graph aren't right. And so you just work through it until you find what you're actually looking for. I'm going to put them back the way they were until what you're actually looking for. It's easy to do on paper. It's a little harder to do on an Excel spreadsheet, but you can do it. And this is what you should do to practice, because sooner or later you're going to be in a business situation where you need to do this. This is why you practice in school. You need to do this eventually in business. So please, please, please practice this week. I'm going to give you obviously a homework on it, and it'll be in your midterm. In your final as well. So learn how to practice plotting graphs and making sure they're plot properly and they actually represent the data that you're trying to represent. In this case, it was pretty obvious it should look like this, so we know what it's like. If you have trouble with that, then making this look right, just draw it on paper and say, what are the variables I need to put on here, and then come back and make sure you understand what numbers to put in this scenario. So there you go. Here's very straightforward math on how to do this. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, and have fun doing the homework.